All right, Mayor Mike, welcome back to Mayor's Monday. I was able to get down here, down to Stevens Point, nice and smooth sailing after our little blizzard. I know you and I were just talking about the snow a little bit.
Record snowfalls.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's supposed to be
snowfall.
spring.
Yeah, but your street crews must have done a pretty good job because everything was smooth sailing all the way into town.
They really do a great job. And I know people complain about the snow doing this and plowing on the sidewalks, the plows going by, this and that. It's important to remember that we choose to live in Wisconsin. We know this happens every year. This should not be a surprise to anyone. But our streets crews do a fabulous job of making sure that our streets are safe to drive on.
And of course, what would we have to talk about if not for the weather, right?
Exactly. If we can't complain about something.
Because obviously we don't have anything else to talk about here in Stevens Point. It's not like you've had a couple of big projects that are
Right.
on
There's
the table
absolutely
on
nothing
Monday.
going on
Yeah.
here in Stevens Point. No, we've got a couple of really nice projects in the works. One of them that I'm really excited about is the Oso Brewery. Their choice to move their new headquarters to the city of Stevens Point. We're going through the process on that now. It's going to be a nice 20-acre facility with not only the brewery but a tasting room. There's going to be a restaurant feature in the back. They're going to have a kickball course, and they're having their own hops planted in the back, a vineyard perhaps, or a fruit orchard. They're having a disc golf course. It's going to be a really, really nice development. I'm so excited. That I think it's going to spur some other development in the area too.
Yeah, and it just kind of goes on with the theme with what you've got going on here in Stevens Point. I believe you've got a distillery that's possibly going to be coming to town. You've got the Point Brewing Company as
Sunset
well.
Point Winery.
Yeah,
Point Brewery was actually here before the city. They're celebrating 161 years this year, and Stevens Point is 160 years old.
And so, I mean, alcohol capital of Wisconsin, you going to go for that kind of
Well, I don't know that
declaration?
we call it an alcohol capital, with the binge drinking problems, which is a very serious problem.
Right.
However, what we have is more of a craft beverage facility here, and this is not the kind of alcohol that people have a tendency to have a 6-pack or a 12-pack of these things. They enjoy it for the flavor and the different varieties of beer that Stevens Point is known for.
Yeah, absolutely. And to see that come up, and it's just kind of another one of those deals that's also a quality of life project for Stevens Point, because I mean, especially the people my age, the 20-somethings, the 30-somethings, we want to be someplace like this. We don't want to drink something that's mass produced in St. Louis or any other major city, which will remain nameless at this point. We want to drink something that's got a little uniqueness to it, and just kind of something as a reward at the end of a hard day.
Exactly, and Oso is fabulous with doing that. Point Brewery as well, and even Central Waters. Just the subtle nuances in their variety are something that people look forward to. There's one that I just tried. It was a rum barrel beer, and all of the different things that they like trying are part of the reason that it's so successful.
So when with the Oso project, what stage are you at with that right now? When can we maybe see some development there?
I expect to see a groundbreaking this year sometime, probably during the summer. We're in the process right now of working through all the permits and design approvals, things like that, and should be breaking ground sometime later this year.
Well, make sure you let us know about that. We'd love to be there.
Absolutely, I'm sure Mark and Katina will have a huge grand opening and a big groundbreaking celebration. So we'll be sure and keep you in the loop.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course another project we've been on the loop on here the last couple of months that you're now seeing some real progress on is the Kmart location. We talked about this with you a little earlier this week, but just again, let the listeners know how big of a deal this is going to be for Division Street and the way you're redeveloping kind of that section there between campus and Interstate 39.
The North Division Street corridor in the city has been on the top of our list for a while as far as redevelopment, and we were given such a great opportunity when unfortunately the Kmart building had made notice that they're closing. The property owner, because Kmart didn't own the property, they leased it. The property owner came to us and said, hey, I've got this idea for a mixed-use development with some housing and some commercial and retail up front to better utilize that property. We jumped at the chance. This doesn't really happen very much. Usually the buildings tend to sit vacant for months. We were very fortunate that the developer had the foresight to have this idea ready. So we brought it to council early to say, hey, what do you think of the idea? And that's kind of been my philosophy as mayor, is getting people involved in the process early rather than having the developers put a whole idea together, pay architects and engineers to draw up a plan, and then they bring it to the city, and the city says, well, this doesn't quite meet what we're hoping to get here. Can you change this and can you change that? Because all of those changes cost money. So we brought this proposal to the council back in November as a concept. Said, hey, what do you think? And the developer was provided with a lot of feedback from the city, alderpersons as well as city staff. They took that information, went to their architects and engineers, and formulated the plan. That plan was presented at the Plan Commission meeting about a week ago, and generally very well received. There were no objections because, again, they had the opportunity for that input early in the process. And so it'll go through council for the conditional use approval and the rezoning approvals, and I don't expect there to be any hiccups there. Provided everything falls into place, that too will have a groundbreaking in the very near future.
And one thing that really kind of struck me as interesting about this project was the covered bike parking that you're going to have there. I know that kind of surprised the folks on the council a little bit too, but that just kind of goes in with where Stevens Point wants to be as, I know, a bike-friendly city and a bike-friendly campus for the university.
Yeah, and some people say, well, there's too much focus on bike accommodations and things like that, and you get people who lump everybody together. No bicyclist ever stops for stop signs, or no motorist ever yields to a pedestrian, and that's just not true. There's a few in every single group, whatever walk of life it happens to be, that people tend to focus on and generically tell everybody that this is all-inclusive. It's not. I think it's important to remember that the bicyclists now can use a full lane of traffic. There is absolutely nothing illegal about the bicycles riding in the road. There's also nothing illegal about bicycles riding on sidewalks. So I don't think we're focusing too much on bicycles. I think they're probably being more visible now because of the philosophy of the council. Some of the things that the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee have done is fabulous. They secured a $400,000 grant for some bicycle lane markings. So it's also part of that development process. So the developers know that generally the philosophy is, let's put some additional accommodations in there for those people who choose not to drive vehicles all the time. And this is an example of that. So by bringing it to council early, we made our wishes known, and the developer took those back. Now, there was a question at Plan Commission, where is the bike parking? It wasn't readily visible, but the developer said, no, that's there, and it's going to be covered. And I think there was 100 and some spots that they were going to have for bicycles that are going to be covered. So I think it just generally speaks to the philosophy that this council has, is being more multimodal, and the fact that this North Division Street corridor, the vision we have for it is more of a walkable neighborhood. Rather than having to drive every place, you could walk from campus to this development or the commercial development that's going to be going on in front of that. So I think it speaks to the philosophy, but it also speaks to the fact that we want to be a little more progressive in our attitudes. Just because it works for me or just because that's my area of interest doesn't mean it's the same for everyone. So we need to take everybody's interests into consideration.
And especially if you want this to be the type of neighborhood that people will gravitate to, because that's just, no matter what your philosophy is, that's just the way neighborhoods are going right now in cities. So
yeah, and like I said, this is going to be a fabulous project. They have a courtyard, so people will have the ability to go out there and have a picnic or relax or play frisbee, a game of football, whatever it happens to be. And it's going to utilize better that entire parcel. Right now, you have a big, vast sea of asphalt with the Kmart building stuck off in the back. This is going to utilize that entire parcel all the way up to Division Street. So you're going to have that retail and commercial aspect at the front facing Division Street, similar to what is there on the corner now where they have Papa John's and Hawaiian Tanning Studio, where the former Radio Shack used to be. We're going to continue that almost all the way to McDonald's. So that whole area is going to be utilized. And then behind that, you're going to have the housing project, which is again, going to allow people to live there, walk to campus, walk to work, bike to work if they have to, go to your tanning session, or go pick up a bite to eat at one of the food establishments in the area. It'll be really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll look forward to the future of that project. And one more project that you've had on your table is another housing development in town. Tell us about that.
So recently the city completed a housing study trying to give us an idea of where we were successful in our housing stock and where our shortfalls were in the housing stock. And one of those areas that was focused on, other than adequate student housing, of course, is the mid-level townhome type houses, owner-occupied single-family units in that $150,000 to $250,000 range. Our stock wasn't as good as the demand needed. This project takes a parcel that is within a current neighborhood, underutilized. It used to be the site of a kindergarten school in the Stevens Point School District. It hasn't been used for that in years. And better utilize that, making some additional housing available. So the idea is to put up some zero lot line twin homes. They're not duplexes because they're owner occupied. You will own that home, but they're relatively close together, which is kind of the way that whole north side is. Our lots are relatively small. Our neighbors are very close. Sometimes only within a few feet of each other. And I personally like that. I've lived in the north side my whole life. I know all my neighbors. We have picnics during the summer and have all the neighbors over. I like that style of living. Other people do too. And putting those houses there addresses the need to have that mid-level housing stock of owner-occupied. Plus, it's a fabulous location. You are literally a 10-minute walk from Buchholz Park, from Piffner Park, from the downtown. You can still get to campus relatively easily. It's a really nice area of town.
And seeing redevelopment like this, kind of closer to the center of town, that's not something that you're going to get every day.
You don't, because you don't have a lot of opportunities for that infill development. This is almost vacant land. There's one building on a very large parcel. And by removing that building and adding some homes, you don't get those opportunities very much. So it also helps the city in the fact that we will get a higher tax increment because there's more homes on there. The value of that property as a whole is going to increase.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't go wrong with something like that coming into the city. You don't get those opportunities.
No, you don't get those very often. But I think a lot of that has to do with some of the philosophies that we've had since I've been in office. Bringing the council in earlier on the projects really helps. And it shows because we've had near record-setting years for growth, steadily increasing since 2015 when I took office. The number of permits and the value of those permits has gone up. On an average, the city sees $20 to $25 million a year in growth. Last year we hit $120 million. So it shows. I think the things that we're doing right. People appreciate that. And Stevens Point is starting to become a place where people are choosing to live and to work and to build their business because of all of those other things that we do.
Before we let you go, people will be choosing to come to Stevens Point for Trivia Weekend. Yeah,
it's coming up. Well, this will be 41 years of playing for me.
Yeah.
The world's largest contest. Yeah, it's going to be held next weekend, this coming weekend. And in Stevens Point, you can listen. It's 90 FM, 89.9 digital. You can also listen on TuneIn. They do a streaming, so you can go to the WWSP website and click on the streaming. You can watch the contest. We have people that play from other countries. That's how big it is. So it starts Friday at 6 o'clock after the parade. Parade starts at 4, I believe. 4 o'clock is the parade through the city. And then 6 o'clock, everybody will be tuned into their radios listening to the world's largest trivia contest.
And any predictions on how you're going to finish this year?
I'm hoping to win.
Of course.
No, we're not going to win. No, we just have fun with it. We've been playing, like I said, for 41 years. Of those, we counted last year, I think we've got 16 or 17 top 10 finishes. It's nice to finish in the top 10, but for us it's not necessary. It's about getting your friends together. Some people we don't see other than Trivia Weekend. We don't see them for a whole year. And we say we're going to see each other, but we never really do.
Of course.
And so it's the friendship and the camaraderie, not just with your own team, but people that have played long enough know lots of people on other teams, and maybe you only see them once or twice a year. So it's really more of a homecoming, and another way to bridge that university-city relationship that we've been working on so hard.
Well, Mayor Mike, we appreciate the time as always. Good luck with the contest.
Thanks.
We look forward to talking with you again next month.
All right. Have a good one.